Hey everybody, welcome to this week's podcast. Got a lot to talk about this week, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. First up, Crix has just released a new firmware for the Mega EverDrive Pro that added a few different bug fixes. It added a last game auto boot option, which allows you to run the last game played just by holding C during start, which is awesome. However, the big deal with this is adding different kind of menu support. So Alex, aka Arcade TV, has already been working on a bunch of cool stuff, everything from mimicking the background of the Genesis Minis menu to a bunch of other stuff, and it's really cool. My personal opinion, no disrespect to anybody else, but I actually just liked Crix's basic menu. Just no distractions, it loads super fast, get right to your game, but I think these would allow a mix of both. It's still very basic and loads pretty quick, but you could just have different backgrounds and stuff, and I think this might actually be a nice happy medium. I don't know. Another cool thing, I know I'm probably pushing my luck here, is maybe having like a folder where you put different menus in, and every time it boots up, it would randomly start with a different menu. I think that might be pretty neat too, but I think it does a really good job of keeping the simplicity of the original while adding some cool backgrounds and colors to it. So check out the post and check out the Arcade TV, Alex's Twitter post, for more info on all this stuff. And hopefully there's just going to be one repository where everybody could download whatever menus they make and anything like that. But very cool to see this added. The XStation optical drive emulator just got a new firmware update that focuses even more on bug fixes and speeding things up, as well as kind of updating the menu. And in the point that it's at now, it feels like a consumer products menu. I think the biggest difference from when I reviewed it to now is that it looked like a beta menu in the review, because it was a beta product. And now that units are shipping, I believe Castlemania Games is shipping all of the first run of orders out probably right now as we speak. So by the time you get yours, load up the latest firmware, and it really will feel like a solid finished product. I still messed with mine a little bit. I gave mine to Beast to play around with. He's been liking it so far, I guess. So it's just very cool to see that what I thought was already a pretty solid product is somehow getting even better and even faster. So kudos to the team behind it. Absolutely. Really happy to see this thing finally ship out to people, because I think everybody's really going to love this one. So if you get it, as with every product these days, whether it's from a big company or a small group of developers, just remember that as soon as you get it, go get the latest firmware for it. And then, just keep your ears open in case there's any other updates, because I'm sure in the next few months and weeks and stuff, there's probably going to be a little bit of bug fixes and tweaks here and there. But overall, if you've ordered it, you've definitely got a solid product coming your way. Racketboy just posted an interview with arcade collector Daniel Gewargis. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. And really went in depth on his entire collection, which consists of a lot of fully consoleized arcade boards, including arcade setups where multiple boards are linked together for multiplay setups. And overall, it's just it was a very cool interview, and it was a setup that many of us would probably dream to have. I certainly would. I think it's always been a dream of mine to have a 4-player Daytona USA setup. I know that's ridiculous, but hey, I'm ridiculous sometimes. Whatever. I would absolutely love to have one. And it was very cool to have a look behind the scenes and see somebody's setup who put so much time and effort into trying to make it, an accurate arcade experience at home. So if you're into stuff like that, absolutely check out the interview. This next thing really surprised the heck out of me when I saw Smoke Monster first post about this on Twitter, but a new game called Space Ava 201 was just released for the PC Engine and TurboGrafx CD systems by a homebrew developer, Nicole Brannigan. And the game plays on all CD systems, and it seems to be a multi-genre game. Smoke Monster described it as a space adventure puzzler. However, the thing that makes it stick out in my mind is using it with original CD systems or the Mister, it works fine. However, if you add an arcade card, you get some more enhancements. And if you couple it with the SuperGrafx on top of that, you get even more enhancements, which, as far as I know, has never actually been done before. So I thought that was a really cool and unique thing. And on top of all of that, it looks like a really fun game. I haven't had time to check it out yet, but it is top on my list of things to do probably tonight after I'm done recording all of this. It looks like such a cool piece of homebrew that really shows off how awesome the homebrew community is, and how, we should all be celebrating the fact that people take the time to make this stuff and then just share it with us. So it's absolutely going to be something I play very soon. If anybody wants more info on it, Smoke did a great write-up, and it's available just to download. And I believe Sorg just posted an update to Mister that allows this to run even easier. I believe when this was first released, you could still run it with full enhancements, but you needed to add something else to it. But now I think you could just load the game and it could run with all enhancements. I would double check that. I haven't had a chance to do it myself yet. I really miss doing interviews. I just haven't had any extra time, and I've wanted to talk to so many awesome people in the retro gaming world, and I wanted to talk to so many developers. So, heck, if Nicole's interested, I would absolutely love to do an interview about this, because this just seems really neat. So if you're interested, hit me up on social media. If not, I won't bother you, I promise. The 2020 Sonic Hacking Contest has just begun, which is a competition where people could submit their own Sonic ROM hacks and mods. And if I'm remembering correctly, it's not just ROM hacks limited to original hardware. I believe people could submit PC versions of the Sonic games that they've made and pretty much any customizations they've had. And this year there's also the Expo, which I guess, unless I'm interpreting this wrong, is really meant for people that don't want to submit to the competition. Maybe the game's not done yet or anything, but they do want to just share it with people just to get their work out there. Maybe it's work in progress and stuff like that. So it's already in progress. There's going to be entries at set times, or there's going to be streams where people play the entries at set times this entire week. So hopefully you're watching this before the end of the week if you want to see it live. And you could, of course, follow online and on their Twitter page. So I do remember checking this out over the past few years. I remember seeing a bunch of really impressive Sonic hacks out there. So I'm definitely interested to see what comes out of this year's. And also a shout out to Chris Fratz. I don't know why that's a tongue twister. I'm sorry, my friend. A shout out to Chris Fratz for the guest submission post. I always very much appreciate it when other people take the time to submit info that we think that everybody else in the retro gaming world would want to listen to. So thanks again for that. And I'm certainly looking to check out the results of the hacking contest. Pre-orders are now open at Stone Age Gamer for the Atari Lynx GameDrive, which is a ROM cart designed by RetroHQ, and this is the second major revision of it. So a million years ago, I did a review on the original, and this one has a bunch of updates, ranging from speed and menu all the way up to it will fit with its case on in every version of the Lynx. If I'm remembering correctly, it wouldn't fit fully with its case on in the original Atari Lynx 1, but this newer version takes care of all of that. So if you're interested and you're waiting for one, check it out on Stone Age Gamer. I believe it's due to ship within a month, so that's pretty cool. No very long wait times or anything like that. Retro Gamer stuff in Europe also had them. I believe they're sold out at the moment, but if you're in Europe, maybe check that link, which is right here in the post first, just in case to make it easier. And if you were looking for a different variety of carts, there's also Benven's El Cheapo and the Aga cart. So depending on what features you're looking for and how fancy you need it, any one of these might be a good choice, but I guess I would just read up on each one and see what fits your needs the best. Everybody here has a good track record of making excellent ROM carts. So I would just check out whichever one fits you the best and pick your favorite. A new firmware was just released for the PS1 Digital, which is the HDMI mod for the original PlayStation from Dan and Christoph, the makers of both the Time Sleuth and the DC Digital. And it's a pretty interesting update. So in the review that I did when it was first released, I showed the different forced modes that were available, which are designed for games like Dino Crisis and a few others, Chrono Cross, that whenever you switch between the menu and the game, there's usually a dropout because it switches resolutions, which back in CRT era, that was never an issue because both 240p and 480i are 15 kilohertz resolutions, so your CRT didn't care at all. There was zero difference between the two as far as no delay, no switching, anything like that. But now that we're on flat panels, everything is different, and the TV very often needs to reset itself, as well as capture cards and stuff like that. So while there's devices like the Retro Tank that are quite fast in switching resolutions, they're not instantaneous. And the PS1 Digital, in their forced mode, did make it pretty much instantaneous. In my testing, I got some artifacts on the screen when it was switching, but it didn't actually drop signal. So if you were in an intense part of the game and you needed to switch to the menu to change your weapons or something like that, when you came out of the menu, if you were using a modern TV and another solution, there might have been a dropout just long enough where you end up getting killed before the screen comes back up. And on the original version of the PS1 Digital's firmware, I never got that. I just got a little bit of artifacting on the screen, but I was able to see everything on there. Now, the only other downside besides the artifacts is depending on when this switch happens, it might add anywhere from 0 to 1 frame of lag to the signal, which for the most part doesn't really matter at all, but it is something that, you would like to see gone if possible. And that's exactly what they seem to have pulled off with this. There's now 2 more forced modes for games that switch resolution like this. The first one's called VFR HDMI, and it adjusts the HDMI clock on the fly to match the input frame rate. And that's something that would result in 0 lag no matter what. I think there was 2 milliseconds total that the PS1 Digital added. So that's absolutely, as far as a gamer is concerned, it should be considered 0, by the way. But as long as your capture card and TV is compatible, now there's 0 everything, 0 delay, 0 dropout, no artifacts on the screen. It really would be the perfect solution for those games, including for speedrunners and everybody else. However, if your capture card or your display isn't compatible with this mode, there's a next mode that overclocks the GPU, and that should make this compatible with everything. That should still keep the 0 lag plus 0 delay while switching with no artifacts on the screen or anything. However, it makes 240p games run 0.2% faster in NTSC and 0.5% faster in PAL mode, which... Now, I'm not a speedrunner. I'm a giant fan of the speedrunning community and all the amazing things they accomplish. But to me, who's more on the tech side, I don't know if that would ever affect somebody's total time in any kind of speedrun. 0.2%. I mean, I don't know how long it would take how long of a run it would take for that to make a difference of even a second. But once again, I'm not a speedrunner, so I would really like to hear if you are a speedrunner. Please let me know your thoughts on this. And there's always really great technical debates with things like if you upgrade your hardware, replace all the caps, and put a new, all new parts in that are less tolerance, because sorry to nerd out too far here on you, but many tolerance are 5%, or many components have 5%, 10%, and 20% tolerance, meaning if something's 100 and it's 5%, it could actually be 105 or 95. And if you replace all that stuff with 1% tolerant components, do you have an advantage over other people? Does it actually matter for the game you're running? And stuff like this is also part of the debate, which, I'm always kind of fascinated by. So please let me know if you're a speedrunner, what you think about this, if this would ever affect a run, if you just wouldn't use it just to be safe anyway, and you would switch to one of the other 3 modes. So definitely interested in your thoughts. And also, as always, to update this, all you have to do is connect your console to the internet and press firmware update, which is one of my favorite features of these products. There's no fiddling with anything. There's no serial numbers. You don't even have to put anything on an SD card. Just connect to the internet and update, which I think is really cool. So thanks very much to Dan and Christoph for continuing to support these awesome products. If you want more info on it, please check out the review, and pretty much everything about the review is still rock solid except what I just explained about the resolution switching part. So check that out if you're interested. John Linneman from Digital Foundry just did a live stream with the original developers of the Golden Axe prototype, which is one of the Sega prototypes that I talked about last week that were released for free just as a celebration of the history. And it was very cool to listen to the developers talk about the game as John played it. They were a team that was Sega of Australia, and they did that prototype in just a few weeks. So I always really enjoy hearing interviews with developers, but there's something about having the game right there so they could discuss it and have, maybe have some memories come back as they're seeing the game in front of them. I just thought it was a very cool thing to watch, and I certainly appreciated John taking the time to interview him and talk about that. So I don't want to give any spoilers. If you're interested at all in the stuff, please check that out. And I think for the most part, you could also listen as well. I did enjoy seeing parts of the game, but that's one of those things that if you wanted to, you could just treat like a podcast and listen to, and I think it would probably be just as enjoyable. Okay, now it's finally time to talk about the Warrior 64. Before I get into what this is, just some quick backstory. We had been talking about this behind the scenes since the Kickstarter launched. Alex had created a post a few weeks ago, and we kind of decided, well, let's hold off because some more info should be coming. And I think that was the wrong move, and that's 100% my fault. I think Alex should have just posted this right away, knowing that, things could always get weird. And I'll tell the whole story now because I feel like there's info that anybody that's even remotely interested in the Warrior 64 might want to hear. But I would respectfully like to ask everybody to keep in mind that I do want this to succeed. If this is exactly what they say it is, it's going to be really cool. And it's going to be something that I would be excited about and excited to share. But I don't know how real of a product this is. So if you could, please keep in the back of your mind that I really want to be positive about this. But here's the whole story, and I'll let you come to your own conclusions about this. Just over a month ago, something called the Warrior 64 was announced on Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter campaign was launched. I had to read through the post twice to figure out exactly what it was because I was a bit confused. The Warrior 64 is a kit for the original Nintendo 64 that allows you to take your motherboard out of your original console and put it in this new aftermarket case that looks kind of like a spaceship. Some people love it, some people hate it, whatever. It's 100% preference. There's no right or wrong for that one, as long as the build quality is decent. It also comes with a third-party controller that kind of looks like a Hori pad, and they're also including some as part of the Kickstarter, some pre-made ones that already have N64 motherboards installed, which is kind of what confused me at first. And it's also that took me aback because I don't know if they've done something like this before, cool, but if they haven't, that's a lot of work. I don't think many people who do stuff like this realize how much work goes into doing case swaps and testing of the motherboards and all that. But anyway, but the final piece of the puzzle that was very confusing is they claim HDMI output that's plug and play and comes from the RGB signal. Now, I've been doing N64 RGB mods since pretty much they were first posted, and I've been doing guides on them since then, and I can tell you right now, there is no way to get RGB from an average N64 console without some kind of mod to it. There's different ways to make the mods easier and all that stuff, but the whole thing was suspicious to me from day one, and I immediately emailed them and got nothing for about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. And then right about when Alex wrote this post, I got a response from them answering my questions and saying, we would like to send you one for review. Even a beta unit or something, which was very cool. I thought, all right, great. And I told them straight up, as I always do, listen, if you send me this, the first thing I'm going to do is lag test it. So I just want to let you know, if you're comfortable with that, cool. But I do always post honest reviews regardless of what the product is. And they were totally cool with that. So that's kind of what made me say, hey, Alex, maybe don't post this right away. If they're going to send me one this week, we could figure it out from there. And I guess they were supposed to send one to other people and never did. And they also mentioned to a lot of people that they were sending one to me, which really annoyed the heck out of me. If they had actually sent one, fine. But, what does that imply, right? Why are you dropping my name around something when I have no involvement in it whatsoever? And I'm sure it was an innocent thing. I'm sure it was just like, oh, hey, RetroRGB is going to get one. But, that certainly struck me as odd. But weeks have gone by now, and there's still nothing. And on top of all of that, the last few messages I got from them were, unfortunately, we're still developing the new solution to make sure the best performance of Warrior 64, which is similar as the Ultra HDMI. Sorry to keep you waiting. And then they just followed up again yesterday and said, sorry to keep you waiting. We're still handling with the new solution for the Warrior 64 according to the feedback from Kickstarter. That's why we still can't send you the console, but we will send you the sample definitely. Well, the problem is, by the time I get the sample, the Kickstarter is going to be over, and I think it's already funded. So to me, this means that they don't actually have a product. There were two telling signs of that. First of all, as Alex pointed out, in their launch video, they talked about, or they showed an N64 booting Mario 64, and it skipped the title screen. It kind of went, and maybe that was just bad video editing or something. The video itself was a little weird, but hey, they could just be people that are really good at making products and bad at making videos. I really wish they would have reached out to anybody in the retro gaming scene to make a video for them, so it would be a little more confident. And that happens all the time. All the time there's people that's like, hey, I'm introducing a solution for my friends here or something. That's totally cool. But let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say the video is just because they're not good at making videos. It still was a little strange that they didn't show any footage of it working, any footage of it unedited like that. And somebody posted under the Level Hike Twitter account about it. And it says, this is Young from a new gaming brand called Intech Gaming. But they posted under the Level Hike Twitter account, which kind of gives off the impression to many people that maybe they had two accounts on their phone and they tweeted from the wrong one. Now, Level Hike here is a very, very important clue because they make some of the worst HDMI cables ever to be made for consoles. And some people think I'm overly critical, but just to put this into perspective, if their cable were a non-essential device, so not an entertainment device, but something like a car or a thermometer or a GPS, they would be pulled off the market and recalled. There's zero doubt in my mind. They work terribly. Not only do they do the same thing all these other devices do, where they use a chip designed for TV signals to scale, which in turn treats 240p progressive as interlaced, get you that flickery image. When I tested all of the different scalers, that was one of the worst ones, and it varied lag between, I think, 3 and 5 or 6 frames. And that's another thing that's, I'll talk about lag a little more later on, but whenever you have variable lag, it's the worst that you could get, because if something like the FrameMeister is over a frame of lag, but it's solid, and if your TV's got a frame or two of lag, TVs are usually solid, it's no problem. You could just adjust for that. But if you have lag that swings between 3 and 5 frames all over the place, or worse, depending on, I didn't spend too much time with it, I'm sure I could have found even worse results with it, you'll never be able to train yourself to go along with it because it's always changing. So if this really is, or was, just a Level Hike adapter built in that converts composite video to HDMI, then it was going to be a terrible solution. So maybe that's what it was, and then maybe after hearing feedback from everybody, they said, all right, we got to redesign the product. But that still means, if that's true, that still means that you would be funding a product that does not exist yet, and there's no chance that they would make their delivery dates. And once again, respectfully to the trolls, I do have a background in manufacturing. This isn't just, I'm not just like a YouTuber flapping my gums at the camera. I am, but there was more to it than that. I do have a background. I do know how long it takes to get things made, even smaller projects. So I don't really know what to say about this. I want it to succeed. If it could perform the way they say it do, there's no way and there's no chance it's going to perform like the Ultra HDMI. But even if it was just a composite video to HDMI plug and play adapter that did it right, it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need an elite solution to have it be good. It just needs to not suck. Just don't process the video signal wrong, and don't add 1,000,000 frames of lag when there's so many devices out there that can do it right for a decent price these days. So, they've been responding to my emails right away up until now, and we'll see how it is after that. I would love to see this thing become a project or a finished product that people could buy, but I had to be honest about it because the fact is there's no proof that this thing exists. And even if you're still just in it for the case and the controller, which is still a decent price for those, depending on your perspective and depending on how much you like the look of that case, there's still nobody even has held one of these in their hand outside of the company. So there's no way to tell, is this a cool case or is this just a crappy piece of plastic that's burred all over it that isn't made right? So I really hope that I'm wrong. I really hope that everything works itself out. I hope they still send me one and I'm able to check it out and then pass it along to the next reviewer. I actually really prefer that, to be honest with you. That kind of alleviates some of the stress of everybody. Companies don't have to make a bunch of products for reviewers, and reviewers don't have to feel like they're, that they have to take the shilling comments, because you don't. It's not a shill. If you borrow it, review it, move it on. So anybody that says that is just a moron, and you don't have to listen to them. I hope that happens. I hope it's a really good product. And I think I have a pretty solid track record of working well with companies with prototype designs. I think even people that probably don't like me at all as a person still work with me, because I always keep my mouth shut when new products come out. I always give my feedback of the prototypes to the best of my ability, and I never spin something the wrong way. I never show like a prototype case and say, look at this junky production sample. Like, no, here's the prototype, here's this final, here's the difference. And I hope Intech Gaming treats it the same way. I hope, even if they're very upset that I honestly talked about this, I still hope that they'll send me one if it's a real product, because I will, as I always do, tell everybody that I may have been wrong, tell everybody that the product's awesome, but I can't do that yet, and I don't want to see a whole bunch of people put a lot of money down to fund a Kickstarter for a product that may or may not exist. So my apologies to whoever that offends, but I just felt I needed to get the info out, because I don't want to feel responsible for being extra polite and having people piss their money away on something if this all goes wrong. I'd rather have you mad at me for rambling too long about this than lose some money. So I'll keep everybody updated as to what happens. I just posted a video about the Time Sleuth lag testing device, and the video was essentially a video version of the guide that I had written on the website a few months ago, and I did it for a couple of reasons. First, Christoph just posted a new firmware for it that has white bars on both sides, which is kind of neat for seeing the slight differences on the different sides, both for CRTs and flat panels, and also it moved the resolution information to the middle of the screen because it was cut off in the overscan area of some flat panels. So I figured it was time. Some people just like, videos as opposed to written guides. There was a new update that I thought was cool enough to talk about, and it's a product that I really like a lot. So I figured it was worth doing a video on. One thing that I've certainly noticed about the Time Sleuth is many people think it's a very cool device and think, oh, but why would I want it? I'm only going to use it once to test my TV. And most people that buy it usually end up messaging myself or Dan or Ryan from Castlemania, who sells them now, and say like, hey, I thought I was going to use this once or twice and I'm using it all the time. I found out that if I turn X mode off on my TV, it removes even more lag than just turning on game mode. Or, hey, it was fun. I tested out all my friends' TVs and figured out one of my friends' TVs faster than mine. So I do just want to put that out there. I'm not trying to peddle these things or anything. I'm just saying that if you have some kind of interest in this, they're now, Castlemania is doing a Black Friday sale, so I think they're a few bucks off. So if you were kind of waiting on one of these, now would definitely be the time to pick it up. And I guarantee you're probably going to use it a heck of a lot more than you thought. So once again, the video is just a basic overview. It's what is the Time Sleuth? What does it do? Why might you want to use it? And here's how to update it, which I think some people, anybody that hasn't used a USB blaster might appreciate the video side of things just because it's different. It's not like doing a firmware update to a RetroTink. You have to use, Intel's Cordis Prime software. You have to make sure the drivers are installed. So it's one of those things where the first time you do it, it's kind of like, this sucks. And then every time after that, it takes 2 seconds and it's no big deal. So hopefully the video will help clear that up. Also, my apologies to all of you. The last full minute and a half of the video is just rambling, or maybe more like a minute. And it's that YouTube thing. If anything's under 8 minutes, it doesn't get picked up in the algorithm as much. And as much as I'm not a YouTuber, I do absolutely rely on that for more exposure and to get the word out to more people. So, I guess without screwing myself over here, a little secret is whenever you hear me say that's it for this time. On the major videos, like on the bigger production ones, it's over. You could just close the window. If you're bored and or if you're not near your computer and you have a playlist or something, it's never more than a minute's rambling. Maybe like a minute 5, minute 10. It's not going to be there for many minutes. But yeah, that's a secret. That's kind of like a secret go-to of my videos. On the weeklies, there's sometimes other announcements and stuff like that. But for the most part, on any of the higher production videos that aren't the Q&As or the weekly roundup, yeah, that's your cue to just turn that thing off. There's nothing else worth listening to after that. And, don't worry about it. So sorry for the long double ending and, ramble at the end. I just... you got to play by YouTube's rules if you want to get picked up in their algorithm, which is annoying as hell. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the time sleuth. Hopefully the video was at least mildly entertaining and you were able to skip the rambling at the end. The company RetroRGB has just launched some replacement Game Gear shells in many different colors that are $17 plus shipping, which I think is a pretty incredible price. I probably would have paid that just for some high quality battery doors for some of the Game Gears I had that were missing, let alone entire full replacement cases. And I just think it's so cool because I've seen so many Game Gears that not only are the capacitors leaking and, you need to replace those or the motherboard will die, but the cases are all scuffed up and, it's really tempting to just discard them and use them as parts. But now you could totally refurbish those. If you mix this with one of those really nice glass screen protectors, you could have yourself a brand new running Game Gear, which if you keep the original screen, there's still something to be said about that, I guess. But I still appreciate it. I obviously like the newer screen replacements better, but overall, if you have a beat up Game Gear, this seems like the perfect replacement. They're all made of ABS plastic. They all seem like they're very good quality. I haven't held one in my hand yet or checked one out, but even though I have a blue Game Gear that I always wanted as a kid, which is weird. I always wanted the blue Game Gear, but I wanted it with a flat glass screen, not the bubble screen, and that didn't exist back then. So now I got one. That's neat, but when the clear black ones come back in stock, I'm absolutely going to buy one of these. And I might have a second Game Gear with an aftermarket screen, this shell, and keep both of them to use. Because for whatever reason, I like to keep my original blue one totally stock. It's been recapped. Everything's original except the screen on it. And the original screen was scuffed up anyway. So, all of this stuff is preference, of course. But I feel like if you're listening to this, you might be as excited as I am about quality replacement shells like this. I actually wasn't familiar with RetroRGB before this, or if I was, I didn't put two and two together. I'd maybe seen their products and didn't associate with a brand name, but it looks like they have other cool stuff on there as well. So they're definitely a company I'll be keeping my eye on. I'm absolutely going to be picking up one of the clear black ones as soon as they're released again. Thanks to Ronnie for writing this up, because this is a very cool thing for any Game Gear fan. Well, that's it for this week. You still here? Still here? I don't know. If you're still here, let me know your feedback. Do you want any kind of closing to these at all? Do I put any special announcements at the beginning and stop my flapping at the end of this and just say, all right, thanks, good night, and just end it immediately? I usually just thank everybody for watching, thank all the supporters, and tell everybody to keep it nice in the comments, as most people actually have been the past few months, which thank you for that, by the way. So yeah, please, any feedback, is there a better way to close these out? Do I just create a pre-recorded ending with 20 seconds worth of music that says, all right, thanks for watching, see you next time, and just use that as my outro? I don't know. I'm always trying to get better at this and try to have a combination between stuff that I like to do and stuff that annoys everybody the least. So if you're still here after that, please let me know what you think. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.